Karolina Kowalkiewicz injury. What happened? Why did it affect her performance? Why couldn't she fly? And what happens next? Stay tuned to find out. Hey everybody, Dr. Chris, orthopedic surgeon and sports medicine physician. Welcome to my channel, your #1 source for information on orthopedic injuries and sports medicine that's easy to understand for everybody.
Okay.
If you're new to my channel and you want to know more about my life as an orthopedic surgeon, be sure to follow me on Instagram or Twitter at Stable Knees. I'm also on TikTok at Dr. Raynor. And as I mentioned before, I'm on a mission to educate everyone about orthopedics and sports medicine. So help me do that by sharing this video with anyone who you think might be interested in this topic. That being said, let's get right to the topic of the day. Karolina Kowalkiewicz is a UFC fighter in the strawweight division. She was injured in a fight on February 22nd of 2020. She was fighting on the main card of the Felder vs. Hooker UFC Fight Night promotion. She was fighting in a 3-round fight versus Chinese strawweight Yan Xioanan. Karolina was entering the fight as the former KSW flyweight champion with the highest takedown defense in the UFC strawweight division at 83.7%. She also had a record for the 3rd highest number of significant strikes in the UFC strawweight division at 752. Her opponent, Yan Xioanan, on the other hand, was entering with a record of the 2nd longest active win streak in the UFC strawweight division at 4 fights, as well as a history of 5 wins by knockout and an unbeaten streak of 11 fights. This was Karolina's first fight after having recently overcome a hormone problem known as hyperthyroidism, where the thyroid overproduces thyroid hormone. She had also recently switched to a vegan diet in an effort to improve her health and potentially make weight cutting easier. With a reinvigorated approach and a new strategy, she was hoping to make a title run for the championship belt in the strawweight division. This fight was expected to be a technical contest with a seasoned striker pitted against a sambo specialist. However, right from the start of the fight, Xioanan came out swinging for the freaking bleachers. After only a minute and 30 seconds into the fight, Xioanan had already struck Karolina with several powerful blows to the face. This included several blows to the right-hand side of Karolina's face near her brow. At the 3-minute and 46-second mark of the first round, commentator Dan Hardy notes that Karolina kept wiping at her right eye, believing that she may have taken a blow to the right eye or to the right brow. At this point, we can see that Karolina is tentative with the right-hand side of her face. Karolina continues to press on during the first round of the fight, although she's experiencing obvious trouble with her right eye, wiping at it several times throughout the round. She attempted to grapple with Xioanan in an effort to avoid the striking. However, she was overpowered by Xioanan, who eventually brought the fight back to standing and, of course, striking. She attempted to keep the right-hand side of her face away from Xioanan, but sensing her obvious difficulty with the right eye, Xioanan continually targeted that area. After the first round ended, the referee called in the ringside physician to examine Karolina's right eye. The ringside physician performed a brief examination where he examined the eye and the right eyebrow. He also examined Karolina's pupillary response to light. He reported to the referee that she was able to see adequately enough to allow her to continue fighting. As the round progressed, Karolina continued to favor her right eye, protecting it wherever possible. Her opponent, on the other hand, continued to hammer away at the right-hand side of Karolina's face whenever it was unguarded. For those viewers who are familiar with Karolina, it was clear to see that she was not fighting as her normal self and that something was drastically wrong. As the second round progressed, it was obvious to see that the right-hand side of Karolina's face was becoming quickly battered. It was not clear at the midpoint of the second round whether she could even see out of her right eye any longer. Late in the second round, Dan Hardy commented that it appeared as though Karolina was having trouble judging distance and was having difficulty landing shots on her opponent as a result. At one point, the commentators even wondered whether she was covering her right eye so as she would improve her ability to see her opponent, which begs the question of whether she may have been suffering from double vision during the second round of the fight. Despite her obvious difficulties, Karolina soldiered on. In between the second and third rounds, the coaches in her corner asked Karolina if she wanted to continue with the fight. Karolina nodded in the affirmative, and she continued on to the third round. Although Karolina fought on like a trooper, in the third round, Yan continued to pour on the punishment. She pounded relentlessly at Karolina's face. Karolina fought valiantly until the end of the fight, but ultimately Xioanan was the victor. Xioanan defeated Karolina with all three judges scoring the fight 30-26, indicating a victory by a substantial margin. So, what happened to Karolina anyway? In a social media post the following day, Karolina stated that she had suffered an injury to her right eye early in the first round. She stated that she had fractured a bone around the eye and that subsequently she began to experience double vision. She went on to say that the day after the fight, she spent almost the entire day in the hospital being assessed by specialists. She was advised by the specialist to remain in New Zealand for some time before traveling back to Poland, since travel with her right eye could prove to be dangerous as a result of the associated swelling. At that point, Karolina knew that surgical treatment of her fracture would be required. However, she was still unsure whether she would have to undergo that surgery in New Zealand or whether she would be able to have it back home in Poland after traveling. As a result of Xioanan's heavy blows during the early part of the first round, Karolina suffered an orbital fracture on her right side. An orbital fracture occurs when one or more of the bones that make up the eye socket around the eyeball break. These bones can be broken or fractured by a blow to the eyebrow or to the face adjacent to or below the eye. There are three types of orbital fractures. The first is the orbital rim fracture. These are often caused by car accidents, and they affect the thick bone of the outer edges of the eye socket. The second type is a blowout fracture, and this is a break of the thin inner wall or the floor of the eye socket. Getting hit with a baseball, a fist, or other hard object can often cause these types of breaks. The third type of fracture is an orbital floor fracture. A blow to the rim of the eye socket pushes the bones back, which causes the bones of the orbit floor to buckle downward. In elderly people, these breaks often result from a fall that causes their cheek to hit a piece of furniture or another hard surface. The bones of the orbit are quite important because not only do they provide structural protection for the eyeball, the optic nerve, and the muscles around the eye, but they also provide attachment points for the muscles of the eye, which control the movements of the eyeball itself. In humans, because both of our eyes face forward, we are able to benefit from binocular vision. And this just describes vision that combines the input from two sources. This means that we are able to combine two separate pictures into one single picture, which gives us a sense of depth perception. Typically, each eyeball will view a slightly different picture of the world in front of us. These images are then sent to the brain simultaneously through the left and the right optic nerves. The brain then combines these single images into a composite image, leading us to believe that we are seeing only one thing. The ability to focus with both eyes, which means to direct both eyes by control of the eye muscles in alignment to a certain point and then fix on that point for further examination, is something that is learned in the early months after childbirth. Even slight changes to the alignment or the ability of an eye to fixate on a particular point can cause double vision or changes in one's ability to fixate. This is what Karolina was experiencing during the entire fight. Using her right hand to shield her face during the fight served two purposes. Number one, it protected her face from continuing blows from Xioanan, which, to be honest, must have hurt like a freaking mother. And number two, this allowed her to cover one set of images so that she was no longer experiencing double vision. However, the purpose of double vision is to improve depth perception. Consequently, as a result of the loss of depth perception, Karolina experienced extreme difficulty judging distance with her opponent, making it difficult for her to land any blows. This problem served as an extreme disadvantage to Karolina, particularly when fighting a seasoned opponent such as Xioanan. Signs and symptoms vary depending on the severity of the injury and the type of fracture. But looking at Karolina's face during and after the fight, it was likely that she demonstrated several of the signs and symptoms associated with an orbital fracture. These include bruising. Blood pooling under the skin can cause extensive bruising around the eyes. Check. Changes in vision. An orbital fracture can easily cause double vision for the reasons previously mentioned. Check. Eyeball changes. Changes can include blood in the white part of the eyeball, difficult or decreased eye movement, or sunken eyeballs. Check. Facial numbness. Nerve damage in and around the fracture can lead to numbness that may be temporary or even permanent. Pain. Fractures may cause eye pain or pain in the cheek when the mouth is opened. Check. And finally, swelling. Inflammation results in swelling of the forehead, cheek, and skin around the eye. Triple check. So why was it not safe for Karolina to travel? Karolina indicated that she was not allowed to fly for several days following her injury before returning to Poland. In her social media post, her right eye was covered with a patch, and there was obviously a significant amount of swelling on the right-hand side of her face. The patch was likely to protect the laceration above her right eye, and was also present to cover her right eye, preventing double vision, which occurred as a result of her injury. Generally speaking, in the event of an injury around the eye where there is significant swelling, or where there is a possibility that the eyeball may have suffered a laceration or a tear where gas may enter the eyeball itself or the tissues around the eye, it is not safe to fly. This is as a result of the pressurization of the cabin of the plane that is associated with flying. The pressurization of the cabin can cause gas bubbles that are present around the eye to enter into the bulb and change in size, possibly causing damage to the eyeball itself. These pressure changes may also lead to damage to the optic nerve. To avoid this, it was necessary to keep Karolina in New Zealand for several days to allow the swelling to abate or settle prior to traveling. So how will Karolina's injuries be treated? Upon returning to Poland, Karolina will meet with an ophthalmologist or eye surgeon who will determine the appropriate course of action. She will likely undergo an open reduction and internal fixation of her orbit to restore the anatomic alignment of the bones. With the anatomic realignment of the orbit, the normal positioning of the muscles that control movement of the eyeballs will be restored. Hopefully, this will also restore normal function and normal movement of her eyeball, thereby restoring normal binocular vision. The fractured fragments will be secured with malleable titanium plates and screws. The fractures can be expected to heal over a period of 6 to 8 weeks. Once healing has been confirmed by X-rays or computed tomography, in other words, CT, Karolina will be allowed to return to regular activities. Clearance to return to training and subsequently fighting will be provided by her treating eye surgeon at this time, if there have been no complications and there are no residual deficits. As long as the fractures heal without complications and her normal binocular vision is restored, Karolina should be able to return to all of her regular activities, including fighting, in the future. Only time will tell whether this all will occur. I wish Karolina the best of luck in her recovery, and I look forward to seeing her back in the ring in the strawweight division sometime in the future. And as always, that's been a word from Dr. Chris, not your everyday...
Just a flesh wound.